Welcome to Scorched Earth and general mid-month reading for the sign of Sagittarius. Sun, Moon and Ascendant. Sun, Moon or Ascendant. For the last 2 weeks of June, so from the 15th to the 30th, I structure these slightly differently to the main monthly reads and to the weekly reads, in so much as we are looking for the lesson. Found over the years that it's much easier to navigate the energy you're in if you can work out why it is that you're in it in the first place. So to that end, what we're going to do is pull 3 cards for your current energy, where you're at right now, 3 cards for the lesson, why are you there, and then 3 cards for advice if I think you need it, which generally most people do. We're using the Crow Tarot today for you, so I hope that all makes sense. If it doesn't, bear with me, I'm sure it will by the end of the reading. I'm going to try not to pull any clarifiers because I like to try and keep these a bit shorter, but we'll see how we go. Okay. So can I have 3 cards for Sagittarius' current energy, please? So we have 8 of Pentacles, we have the King of Cups. More for Sagittarius, please. Thank you. We have the Page of Wands. This is interesting. There does feel something building here. There's a sense of, purpose around you at the moment, Sagittarius. We have the Judgment card at the bottom of the deck, and rather than that feeling like it's particularly paying any heed to the retrograde energy, it feels like you're making really sound judgments at the moment. And possibly for the first time in your life, you feel like you're making really, I don't want to fall into the trope of accusing you of being reckless, another lesson, but making really grown-up decisions about what it is that you are doing, not just on a day-to-day basis, but where you are headed. Right? There's something quite circumspect about the energy, but it is building towards something. It feels like you are both building something in terms of a plan and a goal, but the energy that is supporting that also feels like it's beginning to rise as well. I have Jupiter's doing something. I don't know if it's in retrograde somewhere at the moment. I don't remember what it's doing, right? But I do know that Jupiter's ruffle stomping around doing something as it does. And perhaps that's what's energetically supporting this at the moment. We've got the 8 of Pentacles, which is a card that deals with mastery, right? It is about, true dedication to a task in front of you. And rather than it being one specific thing, I feel like it's the approach that you are taking more generally to the way that you conduct your life. Now, I was thinking Sagittarians and Scorpio, and I'm just going to throw Scorpio in because it's actually right next to you there. They're very similar in a lot of ways, and they have this kind of capacity, a tendency to really immerse themselves in something when it's something that they're interested in, right? To the degree that it can border on obsession. And you find a new thing, you like it, you do it to death, right? In whatever way that applies. But like I said, this feels a bit more circumspect. It feels like it's a little less of that incredibly narrow focus that you've been quite known for a long time. And it feels like you're broadening it out so that rather than, like I said, these very small things, you're actually applying this to every aspect of your life now. And it feels very mature. It feels very grown up. And I'm not wishing to insult you at all with that, but just, you haven't lost the fun. The fun is still here. It's right here. But it feels like there's a bigger plan in mind. And this is every aspect of the way that you conduct yourself, the way that you run your life, seems like it's having this maturity overhaul. That's probably the best way I can put it. We've got the King of Cups right in the center there. And that, like I said, is Scorpio energy, but it does talk about that emotional maturity. Now, for you, I think that it's being able to give your maturity, give your emotions an opportunity to be aired. Because as we've spoken before on a number of occasions, like the way that Sagittarians have kind of dealt with being actually very sensitive creatures, but entirely misunderstood, because you don't present that way often. But emotionally sensitive is to kind of put things into a box, and put the emotions into a box and kind of kick it out of the way. And that worked for a while. But this notion of running away from something rather than running towards something, I feel is a concept, is something that you've been working with thematically. Whether it is you've been doing a bit of shadow work, or you've met someone with whom you can start to open up, whichever way it applies, and there probably are other ways in which it could apply. It feels like bringing your emotions out into the air is the thing that's allowing them to mature, to grow. Oh, it's a bit like, tarantulas or crabs. Crabs? Not so much crabs. Maybe crabs when they're first born, like when spiders shed their skins, they have exoskeletons and they're pretty solid, but they go off in the air. That's what makes them hard. For a couple of hours, they're kind of vulnerable and they're soft and they're squishy, and it feels like your emotions have been soft and squishy, but as they've been out in the air, they've been allowed to go off a little bit, and they're set, and they're now, they've reached this point of growth now, where you can wear this a little bit more easily than you have done in the past. I said that the fun was still there, and it is. Here's the Page of Wands. It's not all terribly grown up, boring things going on. There's excitement here about what your future holds. Every single one of these crows is facing the same direction. Even the one that's very diligently working away on his pentacles there is still pointing in that direction. It feels like everything is moving towards a goal. Now, I'm not sure how specific this goal is, because I think maybe it's not. It's more of a general understanding that you want your life to be like it is now, but even more so. And what can you put in place to make sure that that is the case further down the line? That's the kind of feeling that I've got about it. Because you're never going to go about things like a Capricorn and well, thank God, we've got enough Capricorns. We need the Sagittarians to be Sagittarians. But this beautiful balance that it seems like you're managing to maintain at the moment is that essential line just between being responsible enough and still being fun, planning enough but still not locking everything so hard that you feel restricted. The future feels very exciting to you, Sagittarius, and possibly for the first time in quite a long time, rather than there being, disparate, very focused things that you are excited about. I'm doing this thing in September and it's going to be mint and I'm really looking forward to that, that sort of thing. Or, I'm going to a gig next month and I'm really excited about that. I've got a night out planned with some people, excited about that. It feels like it's your life generally that you're excited about. And this has come about, I feel, from, last year for sure, where you had a fairly profound Tower moment. It was a course correction, and you might find for a great deal of you that the people that you spent your time with last year are barely registering on your radar this year, and in fact it's a whole new set of people that you spend most of your time with, because it was the end of a cycle. And I've said a few times, like over this last year, that there was first the relief of escaping the situation that you were in, and then a kind of excitement tinged with a bit of terror about, now having to do these things by yourself, and like how do I be the ranking adult anywhere, because that's not something I enjoy. To now maturing to a point where you realize that it doesn't have to compromise the essential energy of Sagittarius, that liberated, free energy to take charge of your life. And in fact, what it's done is quite the opposite. It has excuse me, it has really empowered you to move forwards. And it is such a strong presentation of energy. Tell me about the lesson for Sagittarius, please. All right. Well, Saggy, yeah. The lesson is contained in that space between your old life and where you are now. You know? Where you thought you'd never be trapped and contained, and actually when you realised, or when you came out of that old situation, you realised how trapped you had been. The Sagittarian's hooves had been shackled and you hadn't even realised. That took a little while to get your head around, and maybe some of you haven't quite got your head around it yet. But where there was just pure relief to get away from that situation, you know, which as a metaphor works really, really well for the way that you have been over your life, you know, constantly zooming, constantly moving forward. What we have now here is a very determined, very mature turn towards the future. So understanding that the ways in which you deprived yourself before was actually some sort of really strong protection mechanism, actually. You didn't have emotional relationships around you that nurtured you. You didn't have them where it was safe for you to bring your emotions out of a box and be like, oh, hey, I'm a Sagittarius, I'm actually really sensitive. People are going, what? You didn't have that before. You have that now. So where that self-defense mechanism has served you well, probably. Well, it's certainly served its purpose for a while. You've outgrown it so hard, Sagittarius. And the lesson is actually occurring on a number of levels here. Because on the one hand, it is possible for you in the past to have lived so much in the moment that you didn't really see the wider extent of what was going on. And that's how you got yourself trapped. That's how you got yourself stuck in situations that were no good for you. And now, what you can do is take that broader, more circumspect perspective on what it is that you want from your life. But on the other hand, it's now possible for you to live in the moment properly, with a full appreciation of what it is that you've got. And where you're in a situation that doesn't meet your needs, first look at how you are not meeting your own needs. Because that was the thing, Sagittarius. I think that from childhood you have barreled from one... what I just heard there was emotionally abusive. For some of you, really emotionally abusive interaction to the next. And there's been very little in your life that has nourished you. And so in some ways you've had to pretend not to be sensitive. You've had to pretend not to have emotions. You've perhaps even been a little bit embarrassed that you've had them, and so in some ways you've overcompensated in that. You know, you've been that savage Sagittarius that, you know, we see come out sometimes, where you just engage your mouth and you say exactly what you think. You know, it's blunt as fuck. And what people haven't perceived is the sensitivity behind that, the hurt behind that. But as you're getting to this level of maturity now, Sagittarius is seeing that it was because your perspective was so narrow for such a long time, you know, because of the way that you were brought up, the way you were taught about things. But increasingly, it's becoming obvious how you allowed this to happen, how you did it to yourself. And for a lot of you, you sat in situations, relationships, circumstances that were no fucking good for you, where you were not happy, because you have this incredible resilience about you. And it was more of a like, oh, well, this is my life now. Okay, I just do this until I die, you know? Never daring to hope for any more, because life is actually, you know, not just giving you lemons, it's probably like driven past you with a lorry of lemons and people have been lobbing them at you, you know, and you just gotta kind of canter along and pretend that you didn't notice. What a bizarre example. I don't even know where that came from. I'm so sorry. Anyway, the point is, you're fulfilling your own needs now. And you're off on an adventure. Right? We've got this Ace of Pentacles here. This is a new start in the material, in the right here, right now, Sagittarius, which is where we like things anyway, right? It is a seed. And what this is telling me is that the lesson here for you is that you can change your life in an instant. You don't like something, you can do something else. But if you do like something, you can plant it, and you can actually exercise some patience, and you can allow this to get even better. You know, the half the cards on the table here are pentacles. That is not an element that generally one would assume works well with Sagittarian energy, but it's this level of maturity that's coming in now for you. So the Pentacle suit is all about delayed gratification in some ways. How many opportunities in the past to change your circumstances did you miss because you wouldn't let your emotions have a say in what was going on? They're probably running in the thousands because of this resilient spirit. There you go. Well, I just put up with it. That's just fine. I'll just do it. It's great. It's whatever. It's all right. It feels like everything is funneling you now towards an understanding that you can plant your own seed. And you can do it whenever you like, and you can do it 1,000,000 times over with 1,000,000 different seeds. Just kind of flip between them, watering them every now and again, you know. It's all good. The degree of personal responsibility in here is amazing. And I think you are done with people riding on your coattails, Sag. You know, those people who took from you and then made you feel like they were doing you a favour by allowing you to stay about. You know, that time is gone. Because what you understand now, or certainly what you are moving towards, is an understanding of your own personal value, your intrinsic value as a human having, you know, a spirit having a human experience right here, choosing to be incarnated as a Sagittarius in this most interesting of times. You've bloomed, Sagittarius, and you're not done yet. You're really not done yet. This is just the start, and it's absolutely glorious to perceive. Here's some advice for Sagittarius, please. Thank you. We have the Two of Cups. We have the Queen of Swords. We have a metric fuck ton of cards down here. What the fuck? Or 3. Not necessarily a metric fuck ton, but you know. There's that Judgment card again, and the Emperor and the Four of Wands. What did I say to you, Sagittarius? You're making such good decisions now. Right? Wisdom and experience and maturity on your side now, and such determination. So, in terms of advice, we see with the Queen of Cups, no, what? I've just mashed 2 cards together there. 2 of Cups. and the Queen of Swords. What we see with the Two of Cups is intimacy. And Saji, if you want to, send your work up to the next level, this is it. This is what you need to look at, because intimacy is something that you have been a stranger to, and I think that definitely conceptually, because you're all philosophers, whether you realize it or not, you Sagittarians, definitely conceptually, but possibly practically, in terms of a relationship that you may be in at the moment, like this exploration of intimacy is a really fundamental part of how you move forwards, right? Exploring your relationship to intimacy as a concept. How does it feel to you? Has there ever been a point where you've actually felt like something really, really got in there for more than a few months? Because we all have that kind of, that honeymoon period when we get together with people where everything seems glorious for 2 months, and then 2 months later you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, nothing. But it doesn't just have to be with, romantic relationships. This can be every relationship you've ever had, interpersonal relationship. What is the relationship like with your parents? What is the relationship like with your siblings, if you have any? What is the relationship like with your children? Are there patterns, that you have promulgated in your own offspring? Right? That's really difficult work, and that's what I'm saying. It will take you up to the next level. Your own relationship with intimacy is the start, but you can really take it somewhere. And then we have the Queen of Swords. And she's such a discerning character, which is you now, You're making fine decisions about things. Your instincts are really on point. And it feels like your mind is really, really sharp at the moment. Like I said, I'm not sure what's going on in the heavens at the moment, but I feel certain that there's something going on with Sagittarius right now. It's sort of energetically supporting the next phase of your life, or certainly the way that you are trying to set it up. But then look at this. All of these cards here on the end. We've got the Judgment card, we've got the Emperor, and we've got the Four of Wands. You are creating a new foundation for yourself. You are actively constructing it right now. With an energetic bricks and mortar, you are building it. Maybe you're building it for you, maybe you're building it for you and someone else. But the Judgment card and the Queen of Swords and the Emperor, this is all about getting your shit together. Right? And I know these are supposed to be cards of advice, but I feel like they're reflecting the fact that you are getting your shit together. Four of Wands is the home. It's home in all senses. It can be your four walls, but it's more than that. It's about the feeling of home, those people that feel like home, those relationships that feel like home, those relationships where you can be yourself 100%, and you're not having to put on a mask, you're not having to fulfill a particular role. Oh, I'm the funny one. Oh, you're a Sagittarius, right? You can be funny as fuck. It's just Leo and Sagittarius, right? We're just fucking hilarious. Right? But there's a sense of you kind of relaxing into your own identity. And maybe it's because somebody else has accepted you. That's possible. But it feels like it's coming from you. It's all coming from you. If it is that somebody's accepted you and they're kind of giving you room to grow and stuff like that, then that's all cool. But it's you then who picks up the gauntlet and runs with it, And it seems to me very much like you are doing that. It's really beautiful energy, Sagittarius. It really is. Right. I'm going to leave that here. Now I've given you your homework. So, know that I love you all very much. I'll be back next Monday for the weeklies, as ever. And I'll see you soon.